What do you think of that meeting? Yeah, from writing? Yeah. Hmm. Very interesting. Yep.
Turn on the microphone. Calling to order the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting on November 18th, 2019. It's 7 p.m. And our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting of October 21st, 2019.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion?
Just a clarification, the 22nd, right? October 22nd? Am I reading?
Oh,
Oh,
this one says
wait,
the
I
20.
have a different meeting, or I have a different agenda up.
So, do we have a calendar?
Huh.
It's October 21st.
Oh, okay, so I must have something else up. Okay,
If you go to the actual meeting.
okay, so this is, sorry.
All right, well, that's good to clarify. So we are talking about Monday, October 21st, 2019. Any other questions?
Is this, have you got yours figured out?
Let's see.
Do you want to just look on with me?
Yeah,
I can
let's
put it
just
so
do
we
that.
can both see.
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right, so all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, we've approved the minutes. We'll move on now to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've approved the agenda. Next, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Executive Director Stark.
Yes, the consent calendar contains items which would be acted upon by the HRA in one motion without a great deal of discussion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, no further HRA action would be necessary. There is only one item on tonight's consent agenda, and that's consider the transfer in the amount of $39,309 of non-tax increment funds from the City Bella Tax Increment Financing District to the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Development Fund. I'm just going to comment really briefly on this, though. The money that's in there has been earmarked as TIF, but it is not TIF. We've talked a little bit in the past about our Housing and Redevelopment Fund, which is pooled TIF that we can only spend on TIF-eligible activities. And this all gets confusing because we name things too similarly. This is actually moving it into our development fund, which is different, and it's a place where we keep money that has fewer restrictions. So it's money that would be less restricted in that account. So this is really a housekeeping item more than anything.
All right, Commissioner Elliott.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Stark, can you just give us some examples of what those funds can be used for, or what you would anticipate may come before so we can use them for?
In the past, we've used these funds for property acquisitions where the properties do not qualify for tax increment financing. We've also used the funds for hiring consultants to help us with studies. So it's really very unrestricted in the ways that the money can be used.
Could we anticipate in the future that there'll be some suggestions or recommendations, or you'll bring things before us that may be appropriate use for these funds?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, are there any other questions? Then is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of approving the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the consent calendar. Thank you. Our next item is consideration of a resolution decertifying the Gramercy Tax Increment Financing District. Executive Director Stark.
Yes, thank you, Chair Supple. I'm going to be asking Community Development Accountant Mert Link to give the presentations for the next two items on the decertification of the two TIF districts. after she's, at some point in time, I'd like to comment on both of them, but we'll start that way.
All right, thank you.
Chair Supple and HRA Board. As part of wrong stamp. The Gramercy Tax Increment Financing District is a redevelopment district that includes the Gramercy Park Senior Housing Cooperative and was established on June 22nd, 1998. The first increment was received in 2000. The required decertification date is December 31st, 2025. The tax increment revenue is in the form of a pay-as-you-go note and was paid to the developer to assist with property acquisition expenses. The obligation was paid in full as of August 1st, 2019. Once an obligation is paid in full, a district is required to be decertified. The decertification of the TIF district will result in an estimated increase of net tax capacity of $313,258 and an estimated increase in city tax revenue of $168,041 for 2020.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions that anyone would like to have? All right, Commissioner Sandal?
I appreciate that staff was being very diligent in correcting this one report to drop a dollar sign out of it. But I didn't understand why, because it sounds like a dollar or dollars.
Yeah, it's just the way the tax capacity works. It's a function of the class rate
Mm-hmm.
and the property values together. And I think it's an industry standard. The way it's stated in the
Okay.
industry is without as a value that, not in a dollar amount.
Okay, I'll accept that. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'll accept that that's how it's done in the industry.
Yeah, and that's the feedback we got. You know, we when any staff report involves tax increment financing, we run it by our financial analysts at Ellers, and that's
Okay.
the feedback they gave us is just the way that it's typically expressed is without the dollar
Without a
sign.
dollar sign. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Would someone like to move the resolution?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt a resolution approving the decertification of the Gramercy Tax Increment Financing District in the city of Richfield. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We've decertified that district. Number 5, agenda item 5 is consideration of a resolution decertifying the Interchange Tax Increment Financing District. Executive Director Stark.
Again, I'd ask Community Development Accountant Bertling to provide this.
The Interchange Tax Increment Financing District was established on October 28, 1996, and is a redevelopment district comprised of the Dick's Sporting Goods store located along I-494 and I-35W West. The first increment was received in 1998. The required decertification date is December 31st, 2023. The tax increment revenue in the form of a pay-as-you-go note was paid to the developer to assist with land acquisition, site work, and other public improvements. This obligation, along with an interfund loan, was paid in full as of August 1st, 2019. Once all obligations are paid in full, a district is required to be decertified. The decertification of the interchange district will result in an estimated increase of net tax capacity of $99,192 and an estimated increase in city tax revenue of $53,199 for 2020.
Are there any questions? All right.
I
Would
have-
someone like to make, oh, you have one
I-
question?
Just a comment,
Okay,
and
go
that
ahead.
is that for people that might be watching this, it's important to know that when we put in the TIF districts, we did it with the idea that in the future, we would all benefit from it once the tax TIF districts were decertified. And here we are with two of them already paid off early, and those dollars, and those are dollar signs, the two together add up to $221,240 that don't have to come out of homeowners or business owners' property taxes. So I think that's a real plus, and I think that's a great way of saying the councils and the HRAs in the past have done a good job of managing the money so that in the long term, the whole city benefits. Plus,
Yeah,
we have wonderful developments.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that as well. You know, when we do TIF districts and projects that involve TIF districts, we have to reach the conclusion that these projects would not happen but for this financial assistance. In the case of both of these projects, I can tell you with certainty that I believe that these would not have happened except for this amount of assistance that we gave them. We also always tell you that we use conservative numbers in figuring out the TIF districts. That's why these are able to end 3 and 5 years early, because we were more conservative than we needed to be. I would always rather be more conservative than and have districts ending early than end up at the end of a district and have obligations we cannot pay. And to Commissioner Sandal's point, you know, I think we've done a good job in this community of not castigating TIF as good or bad. It's a tool. You know, it's like a pen. You can do awfully good things with a pen. You can do awfully bad things with a pen. It's a tool that we've used, I think, and used well. And there were some, you know, the people that were involved in these two TIF districts that I just maybe mentioned, and some of you may remember them, some of you may not. One is former city manager Jim Prosser, who was very instrumental in this. Former HRA chair Tom Harms, who was very instrumental in this, and former and in attendance tonight, Mayor Marty Kirsch, who was very instrumental in these. And so, you know, I think that those were all visionary folks, just as you are visionary folks. And I imagine that in 20 or 23 years, there's going to be somebody else sitting in this chair, certainly not me, talking about how there were visionary leaders at the dais in the year 2019 that were making great decisions that really are a positive benefit for the community.
All right, thank you. Other comments? Going to make the motion then?
I'll move approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to adopt a resolution approving the decertification of the interchange tax increment financing district in the city of Richfield. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've decertified the district. All right, we are now to HRA discussion items. Are there any items that anyone would like to bring up? I'm glad that Commissioner Sandal mentioned what she did about the impact of decertifying the districts, and I think that is valuable. Any other comments? All right, then we'll move on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Chair Supple. At last month's meeting, we talked about the Emerson proposal, and we had brought you a discussion about whether 4 lots with additional subsidies or 5 lots without addition. There are plenty of subsidies, but without more subsidies would look like. And I think you felt uncomfortable with the additional subsidies in 2 ways. One was the open-ended nature of it, and 2 was just the nature of it, of additional subsidies. So I just wanted to report back that we did get the appraisal update, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but our conclusion is that based on that appraisal, it would have required at least $37,000 of additional subsidy. And I'm not sure that the developer would have felt comfortable at that level. The developer might have thought more than that. So again, I'm not asking you for any action on this. This is going to the city council now as a 5-lot proposal. I just wanted to bring you up to speed so you can see how these things progress.
All right, thank you. Our next item is mentioned here as claims. Is that on purpose, not claims and payroll? Because there is no
Yes,
payroll?
we discussed this, and it's said claims and payroll forever. It's always just claims. The city council approves our payroll. The
You don't
HRA
pay
does
us.
not. The HRA really subsidizes our salaries to the city council, but it's the city council that signs the paycheck. So it is only claims.
All right, thank you for that clarification, and I'll move approval of the claims. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no further business, we stand adjourned, and we'll start in about 2 minutes with the EDA meeting. Thank you.
It's a long meeting.
Okay.
You haven't been getting paid twice. We would happily.
Oh, does it? Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, so to get to EDA, I go where, here?
small changes. Click right there.
Oh, right there.
Yes, I got it now. Thank you.
That wasn't so tough. Martha printed the entire thing out for me. Bless her heart. Let's see, HRA.
For the crowd to settle down.
Yeah, I think we should.
Even Marty loves it.
Well, then you know it's really boring.
I love the family. Great.
Well, good for him. I mean, he's been in, how many years he's been involved with the city? This is my report I have
Got a lot
to
of
do.
paper there.
What I said, just
Just a reminder, we're on the air.
it is 7:15.
At this point, we're going to call to order the Economic Development Authority meeting for November 18th, 2019. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the regular Economic Development Authority meeting of August 19th, 2019, and the EDA work session on October 21st, 2019.
So
Move
moved.
approval. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve both sets of minutes. Are there any questions or clarifications? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've approved the minutes. Next, we have approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the agenda. Our first item of business is consideration of the approval of a transformation home loan pilot project to expand project parameters to accommodate up to 3 loans for projects constructing accessory dwelling units. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, President Supple and Commissioners. I would ask Housing Manager Julie Urban to provide the staff report.
Chair Supple, members of the EDA, President Supple, members of the EDA. A homeowner recently contacted staff about applying for a transformation home loan for an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, a project on her property. ADUs offer homeowners the opportunity to either add rental income or provide housing for family members, such as elderly parents, adult children, or those with disabilities needing extra care. In addition, ADUs provide the community with more variety in housing stock and affordable rental options. Staff would like to take the opportunity to expand the Transformation Home Loan Program to show support for this concept while asking for additional homeowner feedback and outreach in return. The ADU pilot project would be available from November 19th of 2019 to December 31st of 2021 and would give the executive director authority to approve up to 3 transformation loans specifically for ADU projects. The following exceptions would also be added, or added incentives would be added to the transformation home loan guidelines. If you are doing an ADU project, the application fee would be waived. A free architectural consultation would be offered. And while the loan would still be calculated at 15% of the total project cost, the maximum loan amount would raise from $25,000 to $30,000. And then homeowners would also be asked to agree to spotlight their projects either on the Richfield Remodeled Home Tour or through a case study narrative. So constructing an ADU can be quite cost prohibitive. And similar to a major remodeling project like a transformation project, the cost to do that doesn't necessarily come through in the finished value, certainly not for several years. So the reason the transformation loan was created was, of course, so that we would take on some of that risk that homeowners are undertaking in order to do large projects. So providing more funding and resources will offer homeowners added incentive to complete their ADU project, while also giving staff a mechanism for outreach and education to the broader community. And I would just add that we are also, we're actually meeting tomorrow with a staff person from the Family Housing Fund. They have recently put out a how-to guide for ADUs and are actively promoting the use of this tool from an affordable housing perspective. And so we're meeting with them tomorrow to talk about ways to partner, and maybe there's some added help that they can give us in our community to try to promote this type of housing. And we already have actually been working with them. They were at the Penn Fest and the tour of modeled homes. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to try to answer those.
All right. Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
This is an exciting item to see because I think the accessory dwelling units is a great option for affordability, but unfortunately, like you said, it is cost prohibitive. So this hopefully could catalyze something in the community. Who knows? We'll see, how it goes. But are there any resources we could leverage to add to a fund focused on accessory dwelling units in Ridgefield, or not? There's not that kind of funding.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to look around. I think that's a good question that we can ask the Family Housing Fund if they have some ideas for us. Minneapolis has really been active. It's actually, Minnetonka has seen a lot happen, but I think that, housing prices are just can absorb the cost more there than our homes can.
And I would just add, we really like doing pilot projects because we learn from this, and then we learn the answer to some of those questions along the way.
All right, Commissioner
Just
Elliott.
Two things, Mayor. I'll endow it when I win the Powerball. But it's interesting. I get the Seattle newspaper online, and they had an article in there, and it's funny that this came up because number one, I think accessory dwelling units, when it was presented, I think it's a wonderful idea, and they've got a pilot program, and we did it right. I'm not sure Seattle is one of the sanest West Coast cities, but what they did is they had a picture of a crane lowering a 10 by 12 storage carton into the backyard, and there's some neighborhoods that adopted them to provide affordable housing for the serious homeless in Seattle. And on the one hand, God bless them, on the other hand, no, I do not think that's the right way to do it. So what I'm saying is it's expensive, but we can find the money and promote this and have living units, not temporary quarters that are in and out, because you're not solving the problem. I think you may be exacerbating it.
Well, and we always want to do what we can to promote good design and good, wise choices that the community has to live with.
Right,
Yep.
right. So anyhow, I endorse it 100%.
For better or for worse, I'm a child of 1970s and 1980s television. And, what I think about when I think of accessory dwelling units is Arthur Fonzarelli's apartment above the Cunningham's garage. People know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Zandal.
I just realized I lived in an ADU. When my husband was in college up in St. Cloud, and housing was expensive. We had a basement apartment. It had an exterior staircase. And in the event of emergency, you could go up their stairs into their back kitchen or something. It had 2 bedrooms and a bath. And we shared laundry facilities.
Yeah.
So my question is, does it require that you have a separate exit in order to be an ADU?
It does. I mean, to qualify as
Yeah.
you can. I mean, if it's within your home, it's more like a roomer situation, right?
A what situation?
A roomer.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've also had clients who've had parents who wanted to move in, and mom helped to pay for the financing of an addition, a bedroom and a bathroom, and maybe a sitting room
Right. Yeah.
within their own home or outside or adjacent to their home, but accessible so that they could assist with food preparation and so on.
Well, and we've talked about, we had one Richfield Rediscovered who did a unit for his mother-in-law, but at the time, our zoning ordinance didn't allow it, so he had to make some changes. He couldn't have a separate entrance, and now you can. We've talked about doing a pilot through Richfield Rediscovered, but the problem is that, there's so few, not that many units. I think the greater opportunity lies in our existing housing stock, and how can we make it work in those basements or above the garage. Yeah.
Commissioner Freeze Daniels?
I'm going to tack on to the excitement. I'm very excited about this program. I think it's fantastic. I think anytime we can promote smaller living in affordable spaces is really awesome. And I would love to take this further and see with spaces that the HRA owns, how can we maybe advocate for more smaller buildings in those spaces as well and increase density that way too. So smaller single family, whether that be a smaller ADU type building. So
A tiny house?
tiny house, better way.
So I would just add, there was, at Minnesota Housing, they had a specialist in ADUs, and I spoke with him quite a bit at PennFest. I asked him, in his experience, how were these units occupied? And he said he thought really about 60% of them were either for aging parents or for returning children. That was about 60%. About 35% were for, long-term rentals. And depending on the market, maybe 5% were for short-term rentals, Airbnb kinds of things. We haven't seen much of that in Richfield. That's something we keep hearing maybe some concerns about. We haven't seen any of that. But that's something we keep tabs on, is how these units are being used, and report that back to you.
When you think about it, the Airbnb, and given how we sell Richfield for location, that could be an interesting market, which we should keep an eye on.
It's got its pros and cons, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, if it does become something that's viable, what do we have for registering Airbnbs and stuff? Do we have any way of monitoring or keeping an eye on it?
I don't believe so. And again, this comes up every year or so, and we research it, and don't believe that there are many Airbnbs in Richfield.
I was just thinking that it's a possibility if the metro area continues to grow, and the attractiveness of it continues to grow.
I know there is one in my neighborhood now. I was going to ask a similar question, if we have any registry or ordinances for that.
I don't believe so. I'll double check on that.
All right, cool. Are there any other questions or discussions? Then would someone like to make the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Transformation Home Loan Accessory Dwelling Unit Pilot Project to allow for funding of up to 3 transformation home loans for projects involving accessory dwelling units. Are there any comments or discussions? I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the results turn out to be.
Yeah.
All right, if there are no further comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we've approved the pilot project. Next on our agenda are EDA discussion items. Are there any items that we would like to bring up?
If I may, John, has BJ talked to you? And I've talked to him a couple times about involving the chamber more with the EDA, and he said that he had talked to you once, I think, or a couple times, and was really excited about trying to bring his position with the Chamber of Commerce into more concert with the EDA.
Yeah, I would say we have met a couple of times. I foresee it being a really good relationship.
That's what
And I told him that we would keep him informed about EDA meetings that we thought were of interest to him. I told him I didn't think he needed to attend every meeting. I'm trying to protect some of his weeknights, but that I'd try to do a good job of letting him know when I thought he should be in attendance.
Great.
In a related question, we had the workshop with the EDA commissioners, and we talked about different goals and economic development things. What's the timeline on that? Are we looking at rolling some of that out, or is
Yes.
it still in process?
Yep, I continue to do a little bit of research and have some meetings. We met with the Center for Energy and Environment to talk about what their programs were. And so I think it's coming down to 3 programs that we talked about. One is a low-interest revolving loan fund. Another is participating in some way in energy improvements for businesses, and I've made some progress on that one. And then a fund for businesses that are displaced as a part of redevelopment. I think those are the 3 I'm really keyed in on. Right now, I've made the most progress on the energy efficiency piece. I'm hoping to bring that back to you with an actual program in either December or January, and then continue coming out maybe every 2 months with the next piece. And hopefully then by May or so, all 3 of those pieces will be in place.
All right, thank you. Are there other discussion items? Then we'll move to the executive director's report.
I do not have any additional information.
Okay, and now we'll ask the same question. This one is claims and payroll? Or it should just be claims?
It would just be claims.
All right, is there a motion to approve the claims?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the claims, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've approved the claims. Seeing no further business, we stand adjourned. Thank you.